Meantime, let's take a look at her VP, all right, because he was out there this weekend. And they're comparing this to, I mean, Charlie was in his crib, but I was 17 and a freshman at Syracuse University when Michael Dukakis ran in 1988, and this happened when he got in the tank. And people thought he might actually get the ball in the end zone until he got into a little tank and rode around in the tank when he was running against George H.W. Bush. Well, we'll just start with that before I show you what Walz did. Here was Michael Dukakis back in the day, in the moment that really kind of ended his career. Hear the laughter? It's the reporters.
He has a helmet on. He's tough shit now.
All right, come on, put him up.
And here he comes. General Patton? General Abrams? No, Governor Dukakis.
Attaboy, Duke.
Riding to glory in every little kid's Rambo dream.
Sam Donaldson. Well, they're comparing this moment by Tim Walz to that because he looked so inept and like a faker. Like he didn't belong there and he was trying to convince us of something that wasn't real as he decided to go pheasant hunting. And Charlie, you're a gun guy. You tell me whether this looked authentic to you. Here he is.
Yeah. That's my theory. And it never fits quite right. Never fits quite right. Just not quite right. How do you give it back?
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
This was a Beretta A400.
Here is some video of gun enthusiasts showing how you're supposed to handle the gun that we found online. Here we go. There's some very attractive gal in a little small tank top who seems much more adept with her rifle than Tim Walz did. And the problem here, Charlie, is that if you're going to do anything that you don't do often when you're running for president or vice president, you need to nail it. You're not going to fool anybody. And even to the untrained gun person like yours truly, it was very clear he was not adept with the gun like our two friends in that video I just showed you.
Yeah, well, I think there's two problems with this. The first problem, and this is specific to Walz, is that Walz is a fraud. He just has lied about so many of the aspects of his character and history now that there's no reason for anyone to believe that he is who he says that he is. I've never thought that the image that the Harris campaign wanted him to project was going to be successfully projected, because he clearly is not what he pretends to be. But the second thing, and perhaps the more important thing, is that the Harris campaign seems to have a misunderstanding of why it and the Democratic Party writ large has a problem with men. And it's not that there aren't enough videos on the internet of Tim Walz loading a shotgun. It's because of their policies and a long history of political tendency that has been designed to attract women to the party, and that has done so successfully. If you go back to Barack Obama's run in 2012, toward the end, he leaned in very heavily to a whole number of themes that helped him win that election and beat Mitt Romney. But they've gone so far down that road now that they've begun to repel men of all races. And they seem to think that the way that they can fix that is to have Tim Walz go hunting, or to have Tim Walz show up on this or that TV show, or to let it be known that Tim Walz likes football, or that. Yeah, but that's just not the problem. And you know what it reminds me of is a conception that I've seen on the right to some extent, but certainly within the political commentariat, that mistakes policy positions and sincerity for the sort of advertising guff that we saw in that clip, and thus cannot understand why it is, for example, that Donald Trump, who wears a suit everywhere and is worth a lot of money, is unusually attractive to working class voters for a Republican, or why Donald Trump is doing much better with Hispanics than most Republicans have, even though he said some pretty bad things about Hispanics and about immigrants. And I think that this is a great example of it, right? Is that ultimately, yes, of course, presentation matters. And Trump has put off a lot of winnable voters with really unnecessary behavior that may cost him this election too. But ultimately, people are going to look at your policies. Some of the Trump policies that have attracted different people, I don't like. I'm much more of a free marketeer, classical liberal. But the voters who have been attracted by them are much more interested in what he's actually proposing to do than they are by whatever superficial nonsense is being pushed out by the super PACs. And it's just true of Harris as well. You're not going to win those people back from Trump by putting on an orange jacket and pretending to go pheasant hunting. It's just not going to happen. But they can't see past it. And the last thing I'll say on this is, I think that when you get into the mindset that the Democratic Party in particular has, it's very hard to be able to see that. Because the Democrats in the contemporary era, this was not true in the 90s under Bill Clinton. He was a master at this. But now, the Democrats are so obsessed with identity politics and these supposedly immutable characteristics that define everything we see in the world that they really do think, well, you're in this group, therefore, you're in that group, therefore. If we appeal to you with our affinity pushes, then you will come to us, and that person who says this thing will put you off. But politics doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. People are just not that shallow. They're much actually less interested in sort of identity politics and what group they're supposed to belong to than they are in their own well-being. And that clip was just a perfect example of the limits of that kind of politicking.
It's so true. MBD, as he tried to load the gun, he tried several times. It wasn't working. And he said, it never fits quite right, as he tried to load the shells into the Shotguns magazine over and over. They hunted, in quotes, for 3 hours. One pheasant was allegedly shot, not by Walz. The carcass was not recovered. I've got questions. I'm not sure. This guy, he's not fooling anybody. And Bill Maher was making a great point on Friday that they've sent him out now to be not only their man ambassador into the manosphere, as they're calling it, as if Tim Walz is going to be anybody's idea of what a real man looks like. Okay. I guess they couldn't use Doug Emhoff anymore, given, his allegations of being a woman beater. In any event, that not only his male outreach, but also his black male outreach. They're counting on Tim Walz, apparently, to bring in black men, in response to which Bill Maher said the following.
Tim Walz is headlining a voter engagement event tonight with black men. Who better to connect with young black men than Tim Walz? Because apparently Michael Bublé was unavailable.
But the problem is real, MBD. That this New York Times poll that just hit on Saturday shows that in 2016, the Dems had an 85-point margin over the Republicans on black voters. 2020, they had an 81% margin over the Republicans. In 2024, it's been reduced to 63-point margin over the Republicans. That's because Trump has made serious inroads with young black men in particular.
Yeah, I mean, young black men are like, in a lot of ways, like young white men and young Hispanic men who are all more attracted to Trump than the opposition in some ways.
You know how much my family and I love our dogs. Yes, even Strudwick. It's been especially bad lately. Read the newsletter. There's an update. I can't imagine life without them, though sometimes I do. Not Thunder, but sometimes. But I love him. I love him, and I do enjoy most of my time with them. Look, my dogs have a great life. I'm sure your dogs have a great life too. But you and I both know that some dogs are not so lucky. This is why I'm so glad to tell you about Delta Rescue. I love Delta Rescue. Whenever you donate to anyone who claims to take care of animals, you've got to look for the words no kill. No kill. Otherwise, you know what happens if nobody adopts the dog or the cat. This, Delta Rescue, is the largest no-kill, care for life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter and safety and most of all, love. And they've been doing it now for more than 45 years. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need, and check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love Thunder and Strudwick, but would love for other dogs who need care and attention and a home to find those too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.